Torah Life Ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.
Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries, and we are doing next week's Torah portion, which is the teaching of the foundation of all scriptures, known as the Torah, and that is the guidelines and the instructions of our wonderful Creator. And each week, synagogues all around the world, and that's where Yeshua took his ministry to, the synagogues, are teaching a certain part of the first 5 books of the scriptures. I mean, we've heard of the one-year Bible, where they have a little section of the Bible, maybe a little section of the original covenant, and a little section of the renewed covenant, and maybe a psalm or a proverbs that people are reading each day to get through the whole Bible in 1 year. Well, the Torah cycle takes us through the first 5 books of the Bible in 1 year, and every synagogue around the world is reading from the same exact reading each year, or teaching each year, or section each year. And there are certain things, like when there's a leap year, we would read things separate, where when it wasn't a leap year, we'd read things together. The key is to get all of the first 5 books of the Bible and all the teachings in 1 year. And we are up to the 39th reading of this year's cycle. Now you might be asking, if you're reading one new reading each week, how are you up to the 39th reading? Well, you see, the year, according to the biblical calendar and also according to the scriptures, does not begin in January. The year begins in September usually, and sometimes maybe early October, but it usually begins in September. That's the biblical calendar. Now, we could even look at the biblical year according to the scriptures actually begins in April, or what we would call April. But our calendar, our pagan calendar, is so different, so it can be quite confusing. That's why it's very simple. Some Bibles have it broken down, other Bibles don't, but it's not difficult to find a Torah schedule for the year, and it shows you which reading to read each week. I have several calendars in my house that tell me, and we're up to the 39th reading, which is Numbers 19:1 to 22:1. So we're more than halfway through the Torah cycle for this year. And in this reading, 19:1 to 22:1, we see several different things that we haven't seen before, and we also see a lot more interesting things which we're going to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is right there in Numbers 19:1. Now, if you have your Bibles, open up your Bibles. In Numbers 19:1, it says that our wonderful Creator spoke or said to Moses and Aaron. Now, he's been talking to Moses this whole time throughout the scriptures, but now he includes Aaron in on this. So not only does Aaron now hear him through Moses, but directly. It says, our wonderful Creator said to Moses and Aaron. And then he went on to give a whole bunch of regulations of what is clean and what is unclean, or if somebody was made unclean according to what they say, how the person can be made clean again. And a lot of this had to do with temporal sacrifice or temple service, or something to do with the temple. For example, it says if a person touches a dead body, they're unclean, but after 7 days they can, out of the community, they can be clean again if they make a certain sacrifice in the temple. Well, technically nobody can really be clean today according to this term, because there is no temple that they're talking about. But that's not the way we need to look at it. We need to look at it like we have to do our best to maintain purity and to maintain our cleansedness. And if we do something that would make us unclean, even though there's no temple, we still got to do our best to come to our Creator and ask for His forgiveness, so we can be made whole again and clean again in our heart. So maybe not physically according to a biblical original covenant term, we're not clean, but our heart can be clean, and He can forgive us, and He does forgive us if our heart is sincere. But we don't go doing it again and again. If our heart is not sincere, we do it again and again. Once our heart's sincere, we realize we made a mistake, and we don't like the guilt so much that it keeps us from doing it again, and it's a wonderful thing. So after this chapter of 19 that talks about, of Numbers, that talks all about what is clean, and or if something is unclean, how to make it clean, or if somebody, how to make them clean, it goes on to look at chapter 20. Now, this is probably one of the most significant chapters in all of the scriptures, because this here is where we see that not only were the children that brought out to Egypt complaining to Moses and Aaron about the things that they left behind in Egypt, and they thought they were going to die in the desert. Basically, they had no faith that Moses was the prophet of the wonderful Creator, and they have no faith in a wonderful Creator and His plan. And what we see here is in the 20th chapter is we see that the community had no water when they were in the desert for a certain amount of time, and they assembled themselves against Moses. Now this, and Aaron, and this wasn't the first time they assembled themselves against them. And we saw in previous teachings how many of the tribes were just wiped out, or just many of them were destroyed or killed because of their lack of faith and because of their bickering and complaining to Moses, who was just a messenger of our wonderful Creator. Well, the people quarreled with Moses again and said, "We wish we had died when our brothers had died before. Why did you bring, the community of our wonderful Creator into the desert to die there, we and our livestock?" And they go on to say how they have no water, they have no food, and why did you do this? And just blaming Moses for doing this, when it was really, when you see a pillar of fire that's leading them through the desert, that's not Moses, that's our wonderful Creator. And so we see this. But Moses and Aaron fell on their faces and pleaded to our wonderful Creator of what's to be done. And His glory appeared to them. And a wonderful Creator said to Moses to take the staff and say to the rock, water come out. It actually says this in Numbers 27. It says that He said to Moses, "Take the staff, assemble the community, you and Aaron your brother, and before their eyes tell the rock to produce its water." Tell the rock, and this way you will show them my glory. Yet another sign, but still the people wouldn't have gotten it. It says, "But Moses and Aaron had assembled the community in front of the rock. He said to them, 'Listen here, you rebels. We are supposed to bring you water from this rock.' Then Moses raised his hand and hit the rock twice with his staff, and water flowed in abundance, and the community and the livestock drank." Well, this didn't make our wonderful Creator too happy, because He didn't tell Moses to strike the rock. He told Moses to speak to the rock. And he goes here to say in Numbers 20:12, "But our wonderful Creator said to Moses and Aaron, 'Because you did not trust in me, so as to cause me regarded as holy by the people, you will not bring this community into the land I have given them.'" So here is the first time Moses and Aaron hear that they are not going to be the ones that lead the community into the promised land. And Moses just had a job to do, so I don't think he was thinking of it at the time, because it says right there, "And then he went and sent messages to the people ahead of him in Edom, that they're coming, please let my people pass through your land," and so on. One thing Moses didn't do, he didn't mope and groan and plead with a wonderful Creator, and he has pleaded with Him many instances. But by saying you're not going to lead, he says, "You did not trust in me, so you will not bring this community into the land I've given them." Maybe he thought he was going to bring another community, whatever it was. The real fact was that he was not going to survive the trip to the next community, and he was the last of the last before they went to the promised land who didn't survive. And Aaron, it was much sooner. Actually, Aaron, we see here in Numbers 20:24, Aaron is about to be gathered to his people because you rebelled against me when I said at the spring about the rock. And then it talked about Aaron dying right there. So Aaron didn't last long after this incident, and but Moses did, but he still didn't make it to the promised land, because our Creator doesn't lie. And as obedient as Moses was, and as humble as Moses was, and as patient as Moses was, he still disobeyed our wonderful Creator, and there are consequences to suffer. And it goes on to say here, the people bickered again. After they were traveling, they said, this is in 21:5, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to die in the desert? There's no real food, there's no water, and we're sick and miserable of the stuff we're eating." Sounds like the people today, right? Just sick and complaining about the stuff, not being satisfied with what they have. And that's the real disease of the scriptures. And it says in response, it says, "Our Creator sent poisonous snakes among the people, and they bit the people, and many of the Israelites died," right there. Why? Because they were grumbling, they weren't satisfied with what He provided, and they were complaining so much to Moses. And this happened over and over again. And just like the plagues were on the Egyptians and the Pharaoh of Egypt, the plagues were on the Israelites in the desert. Because just like the hard heart of the Pharaoh of Egypt, the children in the desert had a hard heart too, and they had to be straightened out. So many of them succumbed to the snake bites of the poisonous snakes, and only until Moses pleaded that this would stop, that our wonderful Creator told him he's going to build a big statue, a big snake, and have the people look at it. And anyone that looks at it, they will, if they were bitten, they won't die, they'll be healed. So that's exactly what happened. Now, this wasn't an idol that was set up. This was something that our wonderful Creator used to remind them of who He is and what He's done. And we can never forget this, and we have to remember this and realize this. So, we see here several different things in this week's reading. We see the disobedience. We see the lack of a sorrow for this disobedience. We didn't see Moses come and even apologize for what he did here in this teaching. And he just went on to go fight his battles and do what he had to do. Maybe he didn't realize the seriousness of it when our Creator said, you're not going to go over into the promised land. But we want to be sure that we go into a promised land. And the promised land for the children in the desert was the land of Canaan that was waiting for them on the other side of the Jordan River. But our promised land is waiting for us. That is a spot up in heaven, a beautiful, beautiful place. And it's just a wonderful place waiting for us. That's our promised land. And we're on a path right now to go there. And just like the children of Israel were stuck in the desert, and they were bickering and moaning and complaining against our Creator, well, we do the same. Yes, they might not do it directly, but they do it to the messages of our Creator, just like they did to Moses. And many of them do it directly. It's not confessing a couple of words with your lips that's going to get you into heaven. It's confessing those words and meaning it and living it out. And these people aren't living it out, because if your heart is truly in love with the way of Messiah, and if you want to get into the new promised land, you're not going to complain. You're going to be thrilled with everything He has given you. And that's what we have to understand. Worry and fear and all these things are a lack of faith in our wonderful Creator. It wasn't easy in the desert for them, but got to be like Joshua. He persevered, and he made it through. But unfortunately today, just like the children of the desert, many people aren't going to make it. And we got a lot more than poisonous snakes that are around, but we have something now that can help us, Yeshua Messiah. So we have to accept Him, acknowledge Him, and follow His way, and we can be just on the path, and we'll get there. All right, this is the Torah portion. My website is healthwatchman.com. Check it out. And we have other Torah portions there from the previous weeks. If you're not a member yet and you want to sign up for the newsletter, healthwatchman.com, just click on the home page, just put your name and email in, and you'll get these emails. Until then, everybody, thanks for checking us out. Shabbat Shalom next week, and Shalom Shalom.
Life ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.